Call to order, adoption of agenda, 2.1 recommendation.
That council adopt the agenda.
Can I get a second here?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Adoption of minutes of 3.1 recommendation, that council adopt the minutes for the regular meeting held on November 17th, 2021. Can I get a second here?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? 3.2 recommendation, that council adopt the minutes for the special meeting held on November 22nd, 2021. Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I'd like to ask, there was a letter sent to the RCMP, correct? And either of these, I think that, was
That
it this?
doesn't pertain to the November 22nd one.
Pardon me?
It's not, doesn't pertain to the November 22nd meetings.
Was it
Minutes.
November 17th?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, can I go back to November 17th? I just have a question.
Okay.
There was a letter sent to the RCMP, and who signed it?
Councilor Woodell.
Yeah, it was for the staffing. I think the request for increase in staffing levels.
Why would you sign it? I'm just asking, curious.
Because I'm the counselor rep for the RCMP and I was the acting chairperson at the time.
And you were the acting chair on the November 7th.
Yeah.
And that's the
It was
letter was
due-
presented to council. It was with Councilor Woodell's signature on it.
Okay, thank you, I just was verifying that.
Can we have a all in favor for November 22nd?
Yeah, I'm getting on it. All in favor? Introduction of late items, 8.6, Northern Regional calls. Public hearing none, delegations none. I thought we were supposed to have a delegation for Rob Brown and the movie. Whatever took place of that.
I've
So-
spoken to Rob, and they, at the time, they were still in the process of doing edits and sound and all that. It should be ready by December 15th. If you would like him to do it at the December 15th meeting, I can get a hold of him, or we can wait till the new year in January.
I asked that question the other day, so.
Yes, yes. I think that'd be a wonderful idea, but I don't want the next council meeting to be 3 hours because we have a delegation. It depends how much.
Well,
whether
he
that-
needs quite a bit of time. He says he needs about 45 minutes. an
Yeah,
hour.
so that's why I'm suggesting
So when do you want it?
when time allows.
Okay, so you got that? Okay, unfinished business arising from the minutes. So I sent an email around for, to motion to reconsider the old tender fire truck. Can I have a seconder on that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so for reconsideration for the fire truck, with further discussion with the public works and fire chief, it's been brought to our attention that there's a few other uses for that truck that actually has some potential savings for the village. So one of the things that came up was we can look at putting a steam unit onto that truck, and because of its water capacity, that limits the amount of time staff have to run back and forth gathering water, so it makes that a little more efficient. The steamer unit that the village currently has is needing some love or replacement. So instead of spending $90,000 to $100,000 on a new unit and looking at a new unit with limited water capacity, we have this truck available that we can easily modify into a steamer unit. This also gives us the ability to steam up culverts and do proper flushes on culverts for flood mitigation. This also allows the village to be able to clean their infrastructure, so buildings and that kind of stuff where we don't have access to water. And there's the potential that it could also be used in the summertime for forest firefighting and potentially bring revenue. So that was a couple more things that had come up with that truck at potential savings for us. And I think at this point in time, the regional district is just looking for a letter asking if we're interested.
Barney?
It was just over a year or so ago that the fire chief / public works admin there came in and made his case to have that fire truck removed from being used because it had so much money that it needed for repairs on the seals and everything else, and made his case to get a new fire truck, and that's why we got the new fire truck. So I'm confused about this.
Marissa?
So the new fire truck that's coming is coming from the regional district. It's a new tender to replace the fire truck that we're potentially looking at purchasing from the regional district.
Yes, that's exactly
And so,
what I
yeah, the
just
regional
said.
district, the regional district's
Yeah.
covered that truck. It is still coming, and this truck, the existing truck, is still in good enough shape that it can be used for public works and be potentially used for firefighting.
So the cost,
The cost,
that's nothing now?
it's still cheaper than going to a new steamer unit, right, with just that alone, right? Because the new steamer unit's $90,000 to $100,000, right?
No, I'm not sold.
I have two questions. One, how much would it cost to get it retrofitted so that it could be a steamer?
Yeah.
And if it's, you require air brakes or a class, what's it, class 7? No, what class is that? Class 3 to drive it?
Marissa?
Who has class 3?
So to my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, it's only class 5 to operate that truck, so just a standard driver's license, because it is an automatic. For the steamer unit, when they were pricing one out, you're looking at about $10,000 to $12,000 for a steamer unit to put onto that truck, and that's going to a good quality unit.
Chris, can you verify that Blair had told us that? 'Cause I'm not too sure on that.
Told us which
That
worship.
this truck needed work.
Well, and to Councillor Woodall's point, it was really a regional district decision. They felt that truck had exceeded its useful life.
Is that why we needed it? It
Well,
wasn't because this one needed to be repaired.
I'll have to double check that, Your Worship, but yeah, it wasn't a village, it wasn't the director's call, it was the regional district, and they've got
It was time.
well, yeah, they've got a more in-depth asset replacement policy than we do, but, I mean, any used piece of equipment or older piece of equipment is gonna require some repairs ultimately, but, I do understand from the director that it's actually got only around 10,000 kilometers on it. So it hasn't seen a lot of use, but little use like that, depends on what you're using for.
If I would like, as Councillor Smith said, to have something in writing in front of us at how much all this will cost us as compared to getting a new steamer or having our steamer repaired.
Marcel?
So while we're getting that information together, can we also just agree to write a letter to at least ask the regional district what they want for the truck? And then at least we have those numbers as well, and then we can balance it with what the truck's gonna cost us to buy from the regional district, plus what it's gonna cost to retrofit.
I think we should just table it for now.
No, we can't table it. So did a letter already go to the regional district saying that we didn't want the tender?
Not yet.
Okay. Danielle?
So, Martha, you're wanting to write a letter just asking about the cost, but not agreeing.
Not agreeing to purchase it at this point in time, finding out what the cost is and what they're gonna sell it to us for, which requires a letter from us asking that question, pretty much, to my understanding.
I don't see any harm in the letter, but.
Yeah, I think, okay, you want to put a motion on the floor for that?
Yeah, I'll put a motion on the floor that we do a letter to the regional district, asking them how much they would part with the truck for, and then bring it back to council for consideration.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Okay. It's 2 opposed. Do you want it marked?
Yes, please.
Or recorded, I should say. Marlene, do you want yours recorded?
Yeah.
Okay. 8.1 recommendation that council decided on whether or not they would like to purchase a gift card for staff. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Yeah, I think it'd be a good thing to show our appreciation to the village staff and our fire department to look at doing a
This
gift
isn't,
card for them.
this isn't the fire department.
No.
No, this is staff, they're also considered staff as well, are they not?
No.
Does this include the fire department on this? Can we
No.
make an amendment to this to add the fire department?
if you wish.
I make a motion to make amendment to add the fire department to this as well. Danielle?
Any seconder?
I'll second that.
Ben?
So with adding the fire department in, I'm just a bit concerned about that cost aspect again, right? Like it's covering the staff,
We
I
usually have a
totally.
Christmas party for Ben as well,
Okay, so this is something that you did normally do before.
because we're not having a Christmas party for them, right?
That's right.
Okay,
This is what we would give them instead of
and
the.
that's what I was thinking, I was like, don't we
We
normally?
wouldn't give it to them too, we would just hold a party for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, no, I just wanted to make sure there was a balance there.
Barb?
I want it noted that last year when we gave gift certificates, we did not include the fire department.
No, this is the first year.
Marcel?
Can I know that the fire department's the only people in this village that don't get a paycheck for the work they do for the village?
I'd also like to say there's an awful lot of volunteers in this village that don't get paychecks from the village.
Do they put their lives on the line though?
So when my family did it, we all knew what it was all about. Yeah, totally.
All in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Barbara, Marlene? Okay, now I need a motion to the price of what the gift cards are.
And what's the amount we normally spend on Christmas parties?
2,500 is what our Christmas party was last year or the year before?
4,000.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, so the suggestion in the report's at $50 per person. And yeah, historically, we'd spent approximately $3,000 on the staff Christmas party there every year.
So how many staff members do we have? The whole-
We've
10.
got 10
10 now?
10 village and 17 volunteers.
27 at 50?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Just a quick question, sorry. Do you have the amounts that you would normally spend on the fire department Christmas party as well, or is that in that 3,000?
Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. There was typically 2 that happened every year, Councillor Beach. We would hold one as the village, and all the fire department members would be invited, as well as council and basically everybody. The fire department also typically had their own sort of Christmas dinner for just the members themselves, but I understand they would cover that out of the association funds.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the village didn't pay directly for that.
So all in favor?
Sorry, the village didn't pay directly for so they would pay out of their,
Budget.
Out of their there's a fire association that they do on the side fundraising for. So yeah, I believe their dinner came out of those funds. And that was just for, they were all included in the village's Christmas festivities.
all right. Sorry, I totally agree that the members of the fire department do need something to be thanked, exactly. You know, as I've said multiple times, you know, they are phenomenal men who are definitely putting their time and their lives at risk and stuff. I just want to make sure that we're not spending another $3,000 extra on top of our budgeted things, just because, you know.
Chris?
Thanks, Your Worship. So assuming $50 a piece and the 27 individual number that we sort of, you know, we're looking at $1,350 here for Christmas rewards for literally everybody in the
Okay,
organization.
perfect. So we're still overall saving.
Yeah.
All in favor? You two are in favor?
Both.
Want to mark that down?
I've got it.
Okay. 8.2 recommendation. That council adopt the 2022-2026 fire department operation budget as presented. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
I have a quick question. I thought their budget was 165.
For the fire department, Your Worship?
Yeah.
No, If we look at page 20.
Because remember when they wanted to slash the budget, I thought it was 65, 160.
Well, let me just, I think I know where you might be getting that number from. Let me just calculate the percentage here. So 253 last year times 0.34 minus 253. Yeah, the approximate 166,000 is the village's financial contribution towards the fire department after the PRRD's been taken into account. So that's roughly the amount we paid of the $250,000 total budget.
Okay, so when it comes to their repairs and stuff, is that in that budget? Repairs to the back door, that thing we just had done. You sent it over, yeah?
Yeah, so there's a line in the fire department budget for general fire hall repairs and maintenance, the GL ending in 440.
Does that cover that?
No, the work you're referring to was actually one of the identified capital and special projects from this year. I believe it's on item 24 on the list.
So should we maybe just put that in the budget before we amend the budget or pass the budget?
No, it's already happening and underway, and council already approved it. It's on the plan.
All in favor? Everybody's okay with this budget? Any questions? All in favor? 8.3 recommendation that council receive the report of the regional airport governance for discussion. Can I get a seconder?
I'll second.
Discussion.
So for this one, we needed a representative?
Yeah.
This one, because in the last council meeting, we agreed that who the representative was to bring back all information before making any decisions.
It should be like that on any meeting.
Yeah. So I'd recommend that, or nominate Mayor McKetty to represent the village on this issue.
Oh, thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. Cal, and you'll let me know when the meetings are, Sandy?
Sure. As soon as I know, yep.
8.4 recommendation. The council increase the professional sound system capital budget to 20,000 to permit staff to procure the audio and visual equipment for applied electronic, and that the funds for the sound system be drawn from the COVID relief funds received by the village. Can I get a seconder?
Second that.
Okay.
$20,000 is a lot of money. I'm sorry, but I know that the school that I work at last year had to do an entire concert over Zoom. They had to purchase a microphone. This is, you want to talk about underfunded. Education is extremely underfunded, so they found a microphone for under $500, and it reached all the way to the back of the room, larger than this one, and it was one microphone. And I just feel that $20,000 is like, we're sitting here stressing over fire department budgets, but we're gonna spend 20 grand on a microphone system. It's just a lot,
This comes out of the COVID relief funds received by the village. It's not money that we can hold on to.
Can we allocate that somewhere else to buy a $500 microphone? That's
Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Worship. So just for your info, Councillor Beach, this is actually the second time this sound system appears as a project of the village. I believe it was in 2019, although possibly 2018, the village decided we wanted to move to actually video recording. Prior to that, we didn't have any. We undertook a similar quotation process then, and the quotes were actually all somewhat similar to what they are now, maybe a little bit less, in the $12,000 to $15,000 range. Council of the day felt that that was excessive as well and directed us to just do something, and I think the budget we ended up getting was maybe $2,500 when the dust settled, despite it being listed, I think, for $15,000 at the time as well. So Sandy and I went out and procured that camera there. It's done okay. But I mean, if you've ever watched the YouTube videos, I mean, I speak softly myself. I'm often hard to hear, and I'm usually closest to the camera. As soon as our AC unit comes on, everybody gets drowned out, and
Heater or fan or
yeah,
whatever.
the video quality is not necessarily the best. So, you know, we limped it along and did what we could within that budget to get the system that we have. But when this came up again, the item was named professional sound system. So, you know, the corporate officer and I didn't take that to, oh, just go shopping for the next little camera up or two. We reached out to professional firms and said, deliver us something of professional board quality for a boardroom. The quote we're recommending is in sort of the middle of that range. Believe it or not, one of their references actually state that their sound system for their council chambers was in excess of $90,000.
And who's their council
So
chambers?
I won't say at this point, just to, you know, but we're still nowhere near what an all-in professional sound system, you know, could be. It's still scaled appropriately to the village, in my opinion. But this basically gives us something with professional quality, no wires, you know, full zoom capability. So everything we do is up to notch. The reason we're tying it into the COVID funds is, to your point, increasingly we're seeing things done over and over by Zoom and video conference call and digital meetings and so on and so forth. So this is really going to give us the capability to you know, step into that world now, as opposed to the system we have now, where we awkwardly put a laptop on the thing and move it around and nobody can hear, and then, you know, so this is intended to take it and make it professional quality. The other thing to consider too is this firm is going to fully install this, and in the, you know, the last time it bubbled up, one of the comments was, well, let's just buy some equipment and have staff slap it together. None of us know the first thing about putting that. So part of this price includes the equipment and a professional sound technician to put it all together, you know.
And warranty.
Check, yeah, make sure it's working, warranty, and then tech support, and then all of that good stuff that comes with a professional relationship. So.
Marlene?
So if this is a professional system, are we going to be hearing paper shuffling and chairs squeaking and all the rest of it, which will be on our council meetings on YouTube?
So part of the literature does suggest that there's sort of digital technology that filters that stuff and limits it down, so it should make it better.
So will this give Pauline training too, will it? Because she's the one that,
Well, she'll be uploading the videos, yeah, and it,
But-
you know, so that won't really change.
no, but the noisy chairs or whatever, they'll teach her how to take that out.
I believe they'll set that all up for us as part of the installation process, Your Worship. That's, yeah.
Danielle?
So this entire $20,000 is coming out of relief funds from
COVID.
COVID. Okay, so it's not coming out of the taxpayers or any of those things?
Well, in a direct way, the province gave us.
Yes. But it's not coming directly from the village.
No.
I still think that's a very lofty amount.
No, dude. But we need it. Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. And just comparatively as well, Councillor Leach, I did put the quotes from everyone in there, and I mean, we had stuff in the mid-30s.
Yes, I was looking at that.
Yeah, as well as one company that said, oh, we'll just buy this camera on Amazon and slap it in and it should be good, and we kind of felt,
That's what we
well,
did.
That's what we did. And like I say, it's worked and it's gotten us to this point.
Since 2017,
But-
but it's time to upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, we rely on the videos now increasingly for various things, for transparency and you know, public awareness. It'd be nice if it was something professional quality, I think.
I think with the 20 grand number in front of you, I was thinking like, that's something you'd see in like the island. How much
So
larger.
90, 100,000,
Yeah.
Yeah,
200.
like I say, and that was a Peace Region municipality with a $90,000 system.
Yeah, for our tiny little room, I just think was like, they'll pick up every, like, heaven forsake your stomach growls, because everybody will know you're hungry.
So like Chris said, they can turn that out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll probably just like our phones.
Bart?
Have we got any other things that would benefit our COVID funds? in the community down the line. I'm sure there's other things too. I just want to get an over.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Smith. The COVID relief check, if I'm not mistaken, was in the neighborhood of $460,000 from the province. So there's certainly a lot of room there for council to allocate various projects to that fund. And as the mayor suggested, that's not something we can really keep for general operation purposes. We've had to set it aside from an accounting standpoint. So when
So
things
what are the things that we can use for the COVID money?
essentially, we just have to tie it into municipal initiatives that were affected by COVID. And in this case, we felt that was appropriate because of the Zoom and the better microphones and the better two-way video communication. It seemed to clearly tie into
What about our
COVID.
festivals?
The festivals wouldn't be. I mean, the
They
festival.
were affected.
Well, they were canceled, right? So there's a net savings there. I'm not sure how we'd allocate COVID funds to a festival that didn't go on, but
Right.
So do the masks and the hand sanitizer, that kind of stuff comes out of the COVID relief fund?
that's something I can talk to the auditors about here at year end and decide where to go with those purchases. Yeah.
Yeah, and the cloth
That's what it
masks.
should be.
and-
Is there things that the fire department has also had to change with COVID? Could some of that money go toward them very well?
Potentially. With the fire department, most of what had to happen from a COVID standpoint was altering their procedures and how they interacted with each other in training days and stuff like that. But
Wasn't there like changes to equipment though too, due to?
Not really, other than the typical PPE that everybody's got to wear, because when they go in, they're already full.
I'm just thinking, like if we could buy a cheaper microphone that connects and put this money towards something like the fire department or somewhere else where it could be used to help those guys out, then, I know I'm sounding like a pain in the butt, but.
So how much of that COVID fund has been utilized?
I don't have that right off the top of my head, Councillor Woodall. I can get you that number though, but not tons of it, because it was such a large check and we received it somewhat unexpectedly when all of this happened. We were, we've been trying to find things to allocate to that fund ever since it was dispersed to us.
So it's kind of one of those use it or lose it kind of thing?
Oh God, there's still, well into the six figures left in that fund even after we use this $20,000.
Oh, okay.
I'm letting Marlene go because you two didn't put your hand up to talk. Marlene?
Oh, thank you. Air exchange in our buildings, because that seems to be a big push when I hear about COVID.
Because it's all through the ventilation systems, right?
Yeah.
Not droplets? Yeah.
So I mean, I'm assuming that the museum doesn't have air exchange in it, or
You want an HVAC system?
I'm just throwing it out there.
And our post office building.
I think they just put a heater in the post office building today. As in the getting mail. Danielle?
Well, if, Chris is saying that there's still like six figures within there too, these are definitely things that we should
Yeah.
look at. Does the fire department need, have they had things changed? Does the museum need something? If it's a use it or lose it kind of a deal.
Can I have a motion? But let's do this first. Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. And all of the stuff you guys are discussing definitely has merit, but those are actually budget 2022 discussions. So if we're gonna start putting HVAC units into various buildings, we need to have those discussions in January and February of next year when it's time for the budget. The use it or lose it, not quite, Councillor Beach, because we've been allocated those funds from the province. I haven't seen any literature that says, oh, if you don't use it by X date, the province is going to ask for their money back. My understanding of it was, here it is, use it for what you feel it's appropriate for. And, we're definitely going to try and do as many things as we can with that funding from the province.
So we're gonna get a PA, a microphone system for the council. I'm just,
All in favor?
Yes.
We have no choice. 8.5 recommendation?
The council receives the interim audit report from Sandra Rose Bone Grindell, LLP SRBG, Chartered Professional Accountants for information.
I'll
Any
second that.
discussion?
Yes.
You have discussion, Ray?
Yes, what precipitated this?
Well, this is what we do every year.
Mhm.
This is not,
This is the 2021 year.
yes, I realize that. But this isn't what normally takes place in December, is it?
Chris?
Yep, thanks, Worship. So just to clarify, Councilor Hebert, we do have two, so this is the preliminary audit. I think the one you're thinking of is the full-blown year-end audit, which usually happens in May of every year. What happens leading into this is that the audit team comes in, and generally it's the same people that are going to do the full-blown audit, and they start pouring through the documents, trying to get out ahead of the general audit because it does take them significant time. It's a multi-week process to go through that. So in the preliminary audit, they start looking at a lot of things that are generally sort of non-financial. Where's our policies and procedures? Have there been any changes to the purchasing policy or things like that? They go through the minutes to make sure that they're all signed. And it's really like it's a pre-audit check-in with the village from the auditors to say, okay, we're gonna go through sort of the legislative stuff. Are all the i's dotted and the t's crossed? Yes, great. Then when they come in, you know, or stuff that needs to be worked on. Then when they come in the general audit, they've addressed all of those sort of legislative pieces and they can focus on the number crunching and make sure that that's all okay for the given year.
Okay, thank you.
Barb?
I'm confused about this. I've been on council probably longer than anybody sitting here. And I've never had it come back that the council is thrown under the bus for not knowing the community charter.
What?
Non-compliance with laws, community charter issues. It's like council has been thrown under the bus for not abiding by the community charter, and I'm stunned at this. That's just my interpretation of it. I'm puzzled.
Did you have a meeting with Jared? Because Chris did send an email around stating that he would like you two to talk to him.
No, I didn't.
Any other questions? Danielle?
I haven't reviewed this from last year, but do you normally have this many bullet points that come up as issue on all your audits every year?
No.
Oh, this is just this year.
This isn't really issues, this is just things that have to be pointed out with the new laws that changed, right?
Okay. I think like the biggest thing that Sanders and Rose, you know, they do other audits within the village as well. And I've never heard of them give like employee advice, like in section 5 of number 1, where they're talking about how they recommend that they highly regulate the legislative rules. And I think that kind of caught me off guard. I was quite surprised. I didn't realize that they also give employee employment advice.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. So there's, I wouldn't say often, but when things do come up, it's their mandate. And it's not punitive, I would say, maybe to address some of Councillor Smith's concerns. It's meant to be that snapshot, and it falls into the category of one of those things you might not want to hear, but it needs to be stated. So in past years, for example, one of the audit findings in the preliminary audit was that staff wasn't rotating the passwords on our computers enough from a security standpoint. Not meant to be punitive in any way, just, we're the audit team, we're looking into the safety, the security, the procedures of the municipality, and this is something that was identified. So following that recommendation, we reached out to the IT company and we had them automatically rotate everybody's passwords every 3 months to make sure that that security protocol is in place. What you're talking about there is actually my administrative comments, because in these audits, when we get something, I usually put a comment down below that said, yep, administration agrees with this, we'll work to implement it, or whatever it may be. So in this case, for item 1, it wasn't the first time that kind of thing has come up. So we're looking at recommending an organizational review to council for next year. But like the last item, that falls onto budget 2022. So, that's something to put in place there.
So Barb, you're talking about here, instance where approved council minutes were not signed by mayor, acting mayor, or council members. One instance where a special meeting was improperly called and resulted in legal action?
No.
Well, that's what it says, that
Okay.
council has to be chartered, community charter.
Okay, a question here. How come the minutes weren't signed? Is that,
We had no staff here.
That was during our absence, and the interim corporate officer and CAO did not have the minutes printed for you guys to sign at the meetings. So that's what I've been chasing down for the last 3 months.
So
I still don't have them all.
so we paid for them to come in as acting CAO and they didn't do that? I'm ignorant here, I don't know.
Chris?
Yeah, fair concern, Councillor Smith, but I don't think it was meant to be sort of punitive comments from the auditors. Once they make a finding, they're required to put that on paper and just say, hey folks, we found this. In this instance, it was just that some signatures were missing from the minutes. And that was addressed, that's been resolved, so really that item gone. And what they're trying to do is the preliminary health check of the municipality's operations ahead of the full audit, so that, this is really just that snapshot in time ahead of the full-blown audit. So hey guys, we've looked, a couple of things you need to fix so that this doesn't become a permanent audit finding in the full-blown audit at the end of the year.
Right.
A review of the visa statements, has that been rectified in some way?
I've seen Chris's visas, I haven't seen the rest of the staff.
And what are we going to do about that?
I put a recommendation in, and it's in here,
Okay,
that we see the visa statements every month along with the payables. So,
Good.
awesome. And check signing?
and check signing, all the checks being signed, I think council should see that. If it's not a council or one of these two, if it's supposed to, yeah, we see them.
Okay.
Going back to number 1, so in here where it talks about the administrative comments addressing workloads, in 2019 was the workload an issue in the audit?
Well, it wasn't the audit that points out the workload, Councillor Beach. What I'm saying in my administrative comments, and I'm going to frame this oddly, but it's actually a good news story framed in a bad audit finding.
Okay.
And for years, the village council of the day have, tried to move the village forward. We've repeatedly heard that from members of council, and we've been doing that. The issue that has come to the surface now on a couple of different fronts is that moving the village forward has caused cracks in the foundational things that we're supposed to be doing day to day. The boring, non-visible to the public stuff, the reports, the admin, the payroll, everything that just happens behind the scenes before we go and build a skate park, or before we go and pave streets, or before we do any of that stuff. And what my comments here are meant to address is that, like any business, any organization, I mean, let's say we were a sales organization, right? And we started from year 1 5 years ago with $1 million in sales. And now all of a sudden we're doing $5 million of sales, and we need to do customer service for all of those sales too. Well, we can't complete that level, that volume of work with the same people that were only processing $1 million of sales in the year, a few years prior. So it's part of the organizational review recommendation is to have somebody come in with a fresh set of eyes and say, are we managing it appropriately? Because when I look at some of these metrics as a certified human resources person myself, I start to say, wow, we've got folks that used to do a job where they processed $1 million in sales, and now they're doing 5, and we're seeing issues of unprocessed orders, and in a way to equate it. But at some point, we've got to take an objective look now at the village and say, are we exceeding the capacity of the village to actually do this stuff? And if we're having foundational cracks in the day-to-day things, are we appropriately staffed, or do we need to do something different in order to make sure that doesn't happen?
Danielle?
My concern, you're talking in the sense of an income, of a gain, right? My thing here with this is I'm thinking, okay, so now are we looking at potentially hiring somebody else? And then if so, well, if we're doing 56 action items a year, then maybe a village that already costs so many millions of dollars to run the office, wouldn't it just be better for us to maybe cut off 6 of our action items rather than hire another entire employee?
Yep, absolutely.
So maybe that's something else that we need to look at. Like talking about it from an income perspective, yeah, that sounds fantastic, but it's actually the opposite. It's an out.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. There's 2 sides to that coin for sure, and it's something that's worthwhile discussing now that we're at this stage. Are we that municipality that is a legislative organization that does everything legislatively by the book, or are we let's build it, build, community build? Because those things
We want both.
are both accomplished by the same staff members, and they're in conflict with each other.
I think what stuck out to me is that, from somebody who wasn't here when this happened last year, is that, the whole workload thing, I'm thinking, okay, well, let's say the workload has increased, because if this wasn't on the audit last year and it wasn't brought up the years before, then obviously this year it's been the issue. Then are you expecting the same intense workload year after year after year to say, okay, you know what, we need to start looking at hiring another person? That's what stuck out to me. I was like, this doesn't, I don't see this being a 2022 issue, or, hopefully this is.
Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. It was and it wasn't. So with the exception of 2020, what the corporate officer and I did every year was we put a year-end report in front of council that captured all of that stuff.
Okay.
And a lot of it was similar metrics that were here. That 2 senior staff members and along with our team processed this volume of stuff. And it was intended to show council, guys, we're really busy. And, all of this stuff that was in those year-end reports were outside of what the day-to-day legislative stuff. So Mrs. Stokes filing documents, me reading engineering reports and legislative reports and court cases and 130 emails a week and all of that stuff. So it was meant to really show council that we're really working hard to move the community forward at your request as you wanted. But also, look at what I'm presenting in terms of the volume, guys. We've gone from a staff in 2015 that managed 5 capital projects a year to a smaller staff in 2021 that currently has 27 capital projects on the books. As the CFO and the CAO, every one of those crosses my desk. So if my predecessors had a full-time job with 5 and their regular day-to-day jobs, such as emails, coordinating with staff, attending council meetings, proofreading agendas, all of those unsexy things that happen behind the scenes, well, we've literally quintupled the workload in some cases. And now, and I equate that when I start seeing that we're having foundational legislative mistakes being made, well, that's because everything that's on my desk that should be getting an hour of my time is getting 5 minutes because I got to move on to the other 27 things.
So this is more of a workload issue than a staffing issue.
It's the 2. I mean, and the 2 are interconnected, right? So workload and staffing, we're a service organization. So if we don't have, if our folks are busy doing all of this, and I equate the council initiatives to discretionary products, because the capital and special projects list, very little on that list in any given year actually has to be done, right? Paving a road, yeah, they need to be paved, but do they, does that have to be done this year or next year or the year after?
We also have urban systems that works with us as well.
Yep. And
So it's not all on Chris.
to just give you, it is and it isn't, Your Worship. Every single thing that Urban Systems touches crosses my desk, and I've got to read that report to be able to inform you guys on it. I've literally got an 18-inch stack of paperwork on my desk, 2,000 pages of stuff that I've been reading over the last couple of weeks, since I've come back. And part of it is coming back, and seeing the comments, as I mentioned in the summary here from interim CAO Mason and interim CFO Chapman and Tracy Lawrenson. Gary's comment to me, quite frankly, when he came back is, I have no idea how you're accomplishing what you're accomplishing. And now we see that a 30-year veteran of municipal administration spent 2 months here. He was so busy doing this stuff and managing all these projects, he couldn't get the minutes done for council. So what is that to somebody with some HR credentials? That speaks to me, we've got a volume issue. And we're trying to do so much at the same time in such a little bit of time with 2 staff members that we need to step back and evaluate whether or not, A, we're doing too much, and we just simply need to scale that back to make sure that the staff does have time to read once a year a 56,000 word document and do those refreshers, which we should. I completely agree with that. Or whether or not, we need to look at some of the things we've discussed over the last couple of weeks, like executive assistant roles or other support. Maybe we need a project manager. If somebody's going to have 25 capital projects cross their desk every year, that's a heck of a lot of voluminous stuff to manage. If that person already has a job description that's 3.5 pages long, adding 25 separate projects to try and manage with the studies and the RFPs and the quotes and the reports and all of that stuff just becomes, and we've been doing it, and we're happy, and we're proud to do it up until this point. But I'm starting to see, as a professional, cracks forming in the system that say that the staff are so busy doing the community building that we're not allocating the time to the legislative stuff. That's really the boring day jobs that we should be doing because we're busy.
Reports to the ministry.
Yeah, reports to the ministry, financial statements, the annual report, all of that stuff. And I've looked into these things before. So, for example, in 2019 or 2020, I sort of did a quick comparative analysis about, the volume of capital and special projects that we do. And I was blown away to find that, I reached out to the CAO of the district of Tumbler Ridge, and I said, Jordan, at the time, how many projects you got on the go for your staff? Maybe 18. Oh yeah, how many staff members you got? 80. Oh yeah, what are you doing, Chris? Well, I got 26, and we're 9 people trying to do all of this stuff. Oh yeah, good luck with that. We got most of them done. But it was just, and it comes down to that worry now I have as a professional coming back and talking to these 2 individuals, and it was really their comments to say, Chris, you guys are there's so much on your plates that everything that should have an hour of your time is getting 5 minutes, and that's a recipe for disaster. So I want to look at that in an objective way with council. And I don't actually believe I'm the guy to provide you that information. So my recommendation is to bring somebody in. These things happen all the time in municipalities, these organizational reviews. And it's somebody with some deep experience and some HR credentials that look at the organization, they interview the council, they interview the staff, and they say, what are you guys doing? They look at the documents, everything we've got on the go. And then they come back and say, based on the volume, if we want to continue this kind of volume, here's the people you need in place to manage that. Or vice versa, with the people you have in place, we recommend you make sure to limit annual capital and special projects, special tasks, to 10, 12 things a year at most, right? But, and I'm harping on the capital and special projects. It's not just that. I mean, Mrs. Stokes, what was that number, the November 6th council meeting? How many action items did we have come out of November 6th?
20.
20. Single council meeting. Guys, we got 20 things we want you to do in the next 2 weeks, top priority. Her and I had day jobs before any of those were assigned, right? And the projects were there and all of that stuff. We gotta make sure that we're managing the municipality effectively. And so I wanna have somebody come in and take a look at that.
So do you want a motion on that?
No,
All
on
in
this,
favor, first of all in favor on this? Anybody have any more questions on this? No? All in favor?
Do you have a question or are you voting?
No, I don't know what we're voting on.
Made a motion to ask for the payables, the check
All
signing,
visa.
all visa statements for staff and management. What else did we?
And accounts payable.
Accounts payables. Brought on in file for each council to review at a council meeting.
you want those all at a council meeting, your worship?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's for us just before we get on the camera for us to review.
Okay, that's generally not practiced, and times that that's been practiced, it's not gone super well.
Why?
That information,
It doesn't leave here.
no, but it opens up a lot of discussion about, it gets council into the weeds of day-to-day operational items. So all of the items that you're talking about are approved at the budget level, right? So the payables, for example, payables for heat, hydro, natural gas, small tools, supplies, those are all approved within the council budget. Generally, that's only brought to council's attention if council's desired budget level is increased. So examples of this where I've seen it in other municipalities where that stuff is run through council leads to questions of, well, why'd you guys buy 4 pairs of gloves this week? What did the staff do with their gloves? They get used up, their gloves.
Well,
That,
let's just do a trial run.
Yeah.
we
Let's
can,
do that.
We'll do a trial run, and if it doesn't work out, if they keep asking questions about the gloves or the screws or the nails or whatever, then you can tell us that you're in the weeds and you can take these back.
I'm gonna state for the record that I recommend against that, Your Worship.
I want to.
Not because it's anything for transparency, those records are available to any member of the public that wants them. Generally, they're submitted through an FOI. But we also just had a conversation about workload, and you're asking me to bring more information back to council.
Well, I
It's
asked in
generally
an email,
council's.
I asked in an email to see the management visa statements, and they never came across.
So I approve those as the CFO.
I came in here and sat in your office, but I'm not allowed to be with you. I sat in that office and I checked those visas every time, every month. Well, I haven't done that since March or February, so.
For what governance purpose did you go over the staff visas, Your Worship?
Because I did, because I wanted to know.
For what governance purpose did you want to know?
Because I wanted to know. I wanted to make sure I was okay.
So you're actually, I don't know what the right word is here, but you're actually taking a chief financial officer function and making it a mayoral.
You were fine with that before, Chris, but now you're not.
I can't comment on that right now, Your Worship. The reason.
Point of order, I think we can move on with our meeting and
Again, if it's council's direction and motion, we will bring back every accounts payable, payroll, visa statement to the members of council. But not only are you asking for something that, again, in my professional opinion, is not generally practiced in municipalities in British Columbia or elsewhere, and where it has been practiced, it's been very detrimental to the operation. You're asking for something that's going to at least take several hours every week of work for the staff to bring that back to you and prepare the reports.
Right.
So in order not to increase your workload,
Well,
how about the check signing, right? Like, I mean, that's part of this. Is that doable?
The check signing in what context, Councillor Hebert? So the approved individuals for check signings are myself, Sandy, Councillor Smith, and the mayor.
Oh, okay.
Generally, that's already practiced. So the checks are all signed in dual custody. There's no such thing as a check of the municipality that pays someone without a second signature on it. And that's done as an audit recommendation, as a required internal control. So bringing the checks in front of council in a council meeting even before
is what we said.
even before a council meeting, Councillor Hebert, you're reviewing something that's already been authorized and signed, fully audit compliant. I'm not sure why you'd want to see that.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, guys, this is coming across like me trying to be
No.
difficult here, but this is adding, and trust me when I say the instances I've seen where the AP, the payroll, the visas are run through council has always led to operational issues. Part of the reason that the municipal structure is in place with someone like myself with a finance background to approve that stuff in the community charter and then hand it to the auditors and say, make sure everything I did is okay, is that you guys have that level of comfort of knowing 2 separate levels of professionals have gone through those transactions and made sure they're compliant. Bringing council members who are responsible for a $6 million budget in to look at the line items for shovels and hammers in public works is not an appropriate use of council's time.
I think my only concern is, I do also see where you guys are coming from, but we did all sit through a Zoom meeting with Miss Lawrence only a month ago, who talked about roles and responsibilities, and I just don't want to fall back into the old things, right? So that's the only thing, is like, I do see where Chris is coming from on these things, because we did just go through a training a month ago, and she had talked about roles and responsibilities of Chris, Sandy, of Mayor McKetty, and all of us, right? So I just don't want to fall back into those old things. So viewing the visa statements is isn't that normally done by the mayor though, at some point?
No,
I used to, yeah. We used to do it all the time.
But it's not something that is normal?
no, correct.
Okay. Right,
We
because
had
like,
issues with the visa statements back before I became mayor.
okay.
So
And
now I'm-
before,
Yeah, before Chris.
okay.
So, before I even became mayor.
Yeah,
So, we decided that we were gonna check out the visas and make sure the visas are up to par.
and that was something that you did every week, or was it like a month?
Every month.
Every month,
Yeah.
okay.
And
then-
that's why.
Was that one of the items that Miss Lawrence had covered in that?
Yep.
Good, what'd she call it?
Good government?
Governance
Good
training.
governance training, thank you. That, yeah, okay. That is something that we may like need to look at, talking on more, but I do know that, yeah, we all just went through that a month ago, and I don't want to fall back into a lot of those same habits that are causing communication issues and that kind of thing. So it's like, I see your want for wanting to see them, but at the same time, it's also, if that's under the position of the CAO and CFO and stuff, then it's knowing that we have a good enough employee to be doing their job, and if they're not doing their job properly, then that's a completely different issue. So I think that's where my brain goes, right? If my boss didn't think I was doing my job properly, then that would be a different issue. But if we have the CAO and the CFO and they're doing their job properly and nothing's flagged in all the time that you've been the mayor, and that's not something normally that mayors do, that's my only thing. I just, I know we all sat there the next day and said how great this good governance training was, and now we're already throwing it out the window. That's my only thing. I totally see where you're coming from, but I see where he's coming from as well.
Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. And I think, Councillor Beach, that's kind of why I asked that, and I apologize, Your Worship, was maybe a little bit of a loaded question there, but what's the governance purpose for getting that information, right? And to your point, if we're gonna operate smoothly, efficiently, and effectively, we've all gotta trust each other that we're doing the jobs that we're supposed to do, and we're making that happen. And rest assured, everything I do as a staff member is overseen and double checked. You know, part of the reason the auditors made the recommendation to Mayor McKinney for mine was because the audit process was working. When they looked at the staff visas, the staff member themselves approve their transactions. So A, they're responsible for it. If something in there is offside or completely fraudulent, they're responsible for those transactions. So that turns into a disciplinary conversation between them and me. Never has a member of my staff even approached a conversation about visa transaction expenses that could even be viewed as questionable. Everybody's super diligent with what they do because we know, as the mayor indicated, that there have been issues with that stuff in the past. And I believe you ran your platform largely on stuff like that. So, but then the auditors came back and looked at mine and said, we got an issue with this one. This employee approved his own transactions, nobody double checks that. So that's when the recommendation in the audit findings came out to say, well, Mr. Leggett, you're the highest employee. You can't approve it as CAO and then as CFO after. You're the same person. And in most municipalities who have two roles, a separate CAO and CFO, that's where that happens. And then the mayor or a member of council is not involved at all. The CAO has the CFO, charter responsibility for finances, approve their visa transactions and vice versa. It never makes its way to council unless there's something found to be fraudulent or overspending or an issue, and that happens from time to time. But it's also the auditor's job to then go through and triple check everything that everyone's already double approved and make sure that all the checks and balances are in place. So, and again, folks, if you're firm on it, I can do it. I mean, I'm here to serve council, but I'd strongly recommend against bringing all that stuff to the forefront. Last but not least, and I wanted to keep that an operational issue conversation, there have been municipalities who've gotten themselves into trouble with making accounts payable and visa statements and all of that stuff part of the public record with council, because under freedom of information and privacy, corporate pricing is generally considered an item protected by privacy. So if we have an organization out there that's giving us preferential pricing on some stuff, hammers, shovels, gloves, whatever that might be, and we bring that forward to council and place that on an agenda for transparency, we're now telling everybody else that organization does business with that we're getting a better deal than them. And what happens to those businesses' other clients? So that
I
one's...
would just put it on the website, the visas.
And there are still municipalities that do. I could quote a few, but at the risk of being on camera, I won't. But it's never gone well because it always ultimately opens those conversations up to people who make multi-million-dollar decisions for the municipality, saying, well, why'd you guys buy so many shovels this month or whatever that might be. And it's that governance question. What governance reason would that information be brought forward to council?
Any other questions? So we'll move on?
Yeah.
Excuse me. We have a motion on the table that hasn't been seconded. Are we just dropping this
Dropping
or?
it for now. 9.1 recommendation, the bylaw officer. Anybody interested in that?
8 points.
8 points.
You laid
No,
out.
8.7, sorry. How it says. So is anybody interested in this? Northern Regional Call, Ministry of Municipal Affairs, Ministry of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, BC Mayors, and RD Chair. Second? Are you seconding?
Yeah, the motion to discuss, yes.
Discussion?
It's not for council, it's for mayor and regional district chairs.
Yes.
So I think we should make the motion, put the mayor at 10.
I can't on the 16th.
Can we make the motion for
Marcel is the acting mayor, so then Marcel would take this call.
So that's Pacific Standard Time, so it's Vancouver time, so that's
And it's just a phone call.
4 o'clock and 5 o'clock our
They're an
time.
hour behind us. This is their time, PTO.
That would be their time, so they
This
would
is their
be-
time.
No, I'm not available that day. I'm teaching that day.
Any
Who's-
other takers? Barb,
I can participate.
you pardon?
I can participate if you'd like.
Okay, so Barb will be taking this call. And can I have it all in favor for her to take this? Okay. Okay, now, bylaw officer, anybody see any issues here? Why do we have the BC Hydro stuff back on here? Cause I thought we in the spring decided we weren't doing this.
We discussed it, Your Worship. If I remember that conversation, you'd indicated you wanted it on the agenda for public information.
Okay.
I'm happy to drop that. However,
Well,
if
you said we had to bring it to council
if you
to
want.
have it not be put on the agenda.
I'd ask council if they still wanted to keep it on the agenda, yeah.
Okay. Do you guys want to keep this on the agenda, the BC Hydro?
For information, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I have a quick question. The November 19th, where he says, went to the field to see evidence of vehicle stunting and the ground was undisturbed, so they weren't doing it? Am I reading that correct? I'm just making sure.
Are you backtracking?
Yes.
Oh.
There, no, we're there. But
Okay.
yes, there was stunting there because I got a call too.
Oh, okay. And so the ground was disturbed. So is this a typo?
Must be a typo.
Must be a typo.
I can follow up with them.
If you could find out, this because he says it was undisturbed, so I was like, so that wasn't happening then, or that was happening?
Yeah, exactly.
I was very confused. Thank you, sorry.
Okay. Council received the LGMA, Local Government Management Association of information.
Second?
Any discussion?
If we were just received for information,
Well,
we just
it's,
bring it up
of
if
course, the
someone wants to discuss.
LGLMA is the governance courses that we used to take to go to Vancouver or Richmond to take. So it's a Zoom meeting and I'm sure that
I figured because it was doing.
nice. Register before November 30th. Make a submission. Oh, she's returning. Wow. Okay. Anybody see anything else? Are we setting up an Abbotsford Disaster Relief Fund or anything?
I think last it came up when we discussed it, there was talk about the food bank and stuff, and I mentioned that, yeah, the Red Cross or the Salvation Army is another way to direct funds for the Abbotsford relief.
Okay.
But I think that's as far as that conversation went.
Considering that if you donate $1 to the Red Cross, federal government will give $1 and so will provincial. So if you don't donate to Red Cross, then they don't get any money. So fireworks, back to fireworks. Thank you. 9.7 recommendation, the council received flood mitigation email as information. Are we doing any flood mitigation, Chris?
Not at this time, Your Worship.
And what about this, council received correspondence of unfair taxation benefiting railway industry operations as information. Should we write a letter to them? Because do we get taxes for the rail line?
We would apply the tax rate to the rail line property, yeah.
And we do get it?
Yeah, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I can double check.
Because it's unfair taxation. Can you bring that back? The next council meeting? Resolutions none, bylaws none, administration report, CAO's report. Did you want to do your report?
If there's any questions, I'm happy to entertain them, Your Worship.
Is there any questions, anybody? No? 12.2, the action items. So what was that cat, one that was removed off of here for roaming cats, what was that one about? Because I had the resident ask me about it. Why did we take it off?
That was a lady who filled out a complaint form asking for the bylaw to be changed to say that, to be the same as Dawson's where no cats can roam at large.
Okay.
Currently, we don't have that in our bylaw.
So, but it was on the action items.
Yes, and council discussed it and they didn't want to change the bylaw.
Oh, really?
You guys discussed it and everyone said no.
Chris?
Thanks, Your Worship. I think if I recall that conversation there, is that really something that's enforceable? I mean, you know, cats are a little bit of escape artists, and you know, it's one thing to put it on paper and have a line that your cats can't roam. How enforceable is it, and really, you know, what's the village going to do at the end of the day to address that? It's a hard sell.
I have a question. So the fire hall second floor escape route door, so that contract has been awarded now?
It has, yeah. So,
You're still in action items. You're still in action items.
Well, I'm reading from the,
You're in capital and special
Oh.
projects. Sorry.
my wife has done that.
So the letters to the portfolio to the agencies, I was under the understanding that you called RCMP? You called the RCMP, no letter went out?
I did.
I thought the policy was that you were to write a letter.
The letters have gone out this week.
The letters have gone out this week. And then at the regional district, it was talked about at the regional district without a letter going out. So.
Regional district
The
had
morning
their letter
after,
the first week.
the morning after, Councillor Smith went to the regional district board and proceeded to tell them.
Good.
And I always thought that the understanding that it was just a letter, not phone calls.
Point of order, I misunderstood that comment. What that is referring to.
My power's being taken away. Again. So the fire department compliance audit. Draft report under preparation by consultant, presentation to council prior to year end 2021. So the compliance audit is what you sent us in that email?
Thanks, Worship. No, the snippets of it, so we did receive that the end of last week from Firewise Consulting. It will be on the December 15th agenda, along with a presentation from the consultant that did it, and then the staff report.
And that's the compliance audit?
Yep. Yep.
So the fire hall second floor escape route, did that come from WorkSafe or did it come from the audit?
Chris?
Thanks, Worship. I saw that email late this afternoon, Councillor Ebert. I'm gonna double check, but my understanding from conversations with the chief is it came out of the the audit. I did go back and look at the WCB orders that we received in April-ish. Nothing in there commented on fire hall escape. So I think that it comes from the initial comments from the consultant about the fire hall building, I think.
So when we spoke about this, I said that building is not that old and there's building codes that we have to abide by, which we must have. The building codes have not changed, whereas we would have to put this escape route on there. And had I known that this came from an audit, I don't know if I would have went with that. I thought it was from WorkSafe BC.
It is.
Apologies.
It is from WorkSafe BC. They did find that.
No, I don't believe it was, Your Worship. When I reviewed the WorkSafe documents, I didn't see anything about that. So I'm going to have a conversation with the consultant for that. And it's written, Councillor Hebert, as an audit. It's really more of an internal review than a formal audit per se. But like we were just talking about with the general staffing and stuff, we brought a consultant in to objectively look at the fire hall and say, are we on the right track? Or does the building need anything? Are we lacking equipment? And in an operation our size and scope as in any municipality, it's good to have a professional with a second set of eyes come in and objectively look at it and say, yay or nay, we're on the right track. They almost always find something. That's their job to do that. So.
I think that we should have documentation stating from these different facets, saying that this is an expectation before we decide that we're going to go ahead with something. I had no idea that, like I said, and that it was from an auditor and that our fire hall still met the building codes. Like it just seems vague to
If
me.
they're not taught doing training, they can't get out. If there's a fire down below.
Well,
And
it's
they're not
my
taught doing
understanding that if people are sleeping in a building, they need to have an outdoor route to go downstairs. Right?
But when you got 18 or 17 guys up in a training room and there's a fire down in the engine of a fire truck, how are they to get out?
Yeah.
How are they to get out?
Is there not doors up there?
There's no back door, that's what
That's
this
what
is.
this
There
is.
is no door whatsoever.
Not in the back of the building.
Once they're in the lunchroom, training room, if a fire happens in the entrance or the office space or to the mayor's point in the engine closest to that door, there's a possibility they can be all trapped upstairs.
So there's only one door to get in there, and that's that front door. And then there's the bays.
The bays, and then there's a side door over here as
On
well.
the bay.
And there's off
It's
the
on-
bay,
it's
and
on.
then there's a back door into the gated compound. But there's some concern with the back door into the gated compound because people that use that for egress, they also get stuck in the compound in the event of a fire because it's got a 6 or 7 foot security fence around it.
Couldn't we have just put a gate?
But again, that doesn't address the second floor.
I'm being facetious, I'm sorry.
Well, and we have one, yeah, but, it was just a safety recommendation and the chief felt that was
Safety recommendation.
worthy enough to bring to you guys, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Barb?
How did that ever get approved for building in 2008? Like, I'm stunned. Was it something that we weren't going to use the upstairs, or it was just going to be storage? And now we're using it for,
Possibly, Councillor Smith. The building and the operation of the fire department has evolved a lot since 2008. I know it's been historically used as a lunchroom and then a training facility. But when we moved the RCMP in downstairs, the chief's office also went upstairs into essentially what was a broom closet up there. So Similarly with the people upstairs, you know, we did install a window up there to at least give them some ventilation in that office per se, and you'll see it in the fire.
He's never complained about that.
The auditor has.
Yeah, the auditor.
So, yeah, so,
Blair never did.
yeah, but, you know, it's one of those things. Do we want to
Right.
have personnel without a way to escape if, ironically enough, the fire department building catches on fire?
Yeah, I felt back then when Blair needed our fire chief needed a place to go, that the best place for him to be, since he was giving up his space, that he should be in this village office,
And where would you put him?
right there.
That's my office, which I gave to Sandy.
No, build the wall. We need a place for our fire chief. We need a safe place, a great place. Air conditioned, ventilation, and it is much better than putting him up in there.
Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I think that conversation with Councillor Hebert is best deferred until you guys have a chance to read the fire services review,
Yeah.
because there are extensive comments in there about, you know, the chief, his role, where his office is located, the record retention requirements of the fire hall. You know, we're all part of the context of that discussion. Most of the records for the fire hall are actually sitting in Public Works. Not necessarily a compliant way to retain fire records for a municipality. So again, one of those things that you know, 30-year veteran of that service came to us and said, you guys could really sharpen your pencil on a few things here. So yeah, there's a lot in there. It's a 49-page report, and I've done 3 pages of summary notes already on it too. So that'll be probably best. Yeah.
Capital special projects. We did that. And counselor's calendar. Danielle?
Just for the record, I had a library board meeting for the 16th, and now it's been canceled. The librarian doesn't feel at this point in time that she has anything to really put on the agenda. It's not much has been happening with all the changes to COVID and everything with the restrictions, so the meeting was canceled, but I was originally booked for that. I also wanted to ask, I still haven't received an email or anything from who to contact at the food bank, but no number. I did ask about it last week, I think, the last meeting. But for the food bank? Aren't I the liaison for the food bank?
Double check that.
It's Debbie Stramalik that
That's,
you contact.
that's what I thought.
And how's RCLC going?
Good. Yeah, no, I reached out with, I think it's Doug, I think is his name. Yeah, I did speak with him, just sort of about like my schedule, and most of their meetings happen while I'm working, but I did message him and say like, if there's anything that, you know, if there's anything that you really feel that is important, I can definitely take the time off and go. And then he's just basically sending me their minutes, so I'm going to read their minutes. And
Councillor Hebert.
I just met outside with the museum curator and before coming in here, and he wanted us to know that the library and the museum were going to get together, and they were going to have a mini light up on December 10th.
Should we make a motion for the fire department to do that if they want to? Because Blair really likes Christmas.
This was just told to me, like, if Blair wants to get a hold of them.
But we have to make a motion for Blair to be able to do it, is what I'm
What?
saying. They weren't allowed to do July 1st.
They're a volunteer.
I don't know, they're just doing something over there, I think, for their Christmas display, which they usually do, and giving hot chocolate and coffee. And they're gonna have a little fire out there, he said. And it was just off the cuff. I have no idea. I wasn't involved in the organization of this whatsoever. So is there any requirements that we have to get back to them?
We need to follow all the COVID stuff that's out there, and right now there's no gatherings.
Yeah.
Would you like me to inform them?
There is gatherings,
There
as
is.
long as they're vaccinated.
Any outdoors?
Actually, I have it.
Limit is 50.
50?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, I just read it, you know, the things have
Well,
changed.
they just renewed, they just
They
changed
just
them
updated
Tuesday
it.
night.
Well, they gave you an update.
Yeah.
And they're gonna check to see if people are vaccinated.
Usually they're pretty compliant, aren't
Mhm.
I mean, they do all their checking and
He usually
things like
calls around
that,
and
so
helps. So
I-
I'm not,
I'm not that concerned about that. But that is what he said, that they're planning, and he wanted you to know.
So you guys are okay if the fire department want to join in? That's what I'm asking.
That's not our, I'm just,
They wouldn't do July 1st last year. They would not do July 1st last year because we did not approve anything. They were not involved in July 1st.
I'm a liaison for the museum.
I
and the
know, but
museum-
does council mind if Blair reaches out to Les, or Les asks Blair if he wants to join in?
Oh. I don't know. I don't have any problem with Blair talking to Les.
But are you guys okay that the fire department join in if they want to? All in favor?
Sure.
Councillor Smith.
I have a regional district meeting tomorrow.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, no, my meeting with the library was canceled. I'm looking to find out that information on the food bank. The library had originally talked about doing like an online Lego competition. I haven't seen it at this point, but I was going to reach out to Courtney to see if she needed any help with that as well, so.
Councillor Woodall.
No, had a good chat with fire chief this last week, just to see if there's anything that needed to be brought up, and got some more information on the truck. And the only other thing is, this morning I was at the Poo Scoop BSO here, and they're starting to collect for the local food bank already, so. Yeah, so I told them that I would inquire into who to contact for giving their donations, so.
I just wanted to throw out there too that our school, I posted on the What's Happening Who Scoopy, but the principal at the school and her husband, who's a teacher in Dawson Creek as well, loaded up like, I think it was like 500 pounds of extra like vegetables that they were given from the BC Fresh fundraiser that they did, and they dropped it off at the Nowkin. They did contact our food bank, but they didn't have any room, I think was what Ms. Bricker there had said. Sorry. Yeah,
I can update you if you like.
you can. Yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was really, it was two people, and they literally hand bombed an entire huge Yukon SUV all by themselves, and then they went and hand bombed it all back to the Nowkin, and I was just like, I felt bad because I'm like young and spry, and I'm like, see ya. And I had my kids in the car, and I felt so bad, and I was like, thanks.
How's the school going?
Good. I haven't really checked in too much with them. I know that we are looking at doing the community centered count. That's kind of been on there. So I was
The what?
gonna, the community centered count. You'd asked what wanted to do. So I was gonna reach out to Sandy and Chris here and see if that was something you wanted me to kind of take part in or whatever to do the inventory
We have
count.
staff that does that.
Yeah.
Union staff, by the way. We have, you can call Chad Anderson.
Okay. Yes.
Reach out to Chad. He's the
Okay.
president of,
Yes, he is.
because Trav can't do it, because his mom teaches it.
Question.
Yeah.
Are we gonna be getting our coat room back?
The one across from the library?
Yes.
The,
No, not the
It's
mud
where-
room,
not the mudroom.
the coat room.
It's a
Oh,
janitor
the
room.
janitor room, yes. Courtney she talked to me about that, and she was also asking about that as well. Oddly enough, we just talked about that last week.
Sandy?
Sandy's way.
So I reached out to School District 59. Chris and I have a meeting with Mike Reedman and Wade Simlett in the near future. It's a yearly meeting that we have to have regarding the community center. It's in the agreement, and the janitor room is something that is to be talked about then.
In the agreement, they're supposed to buy books for our library. Did they buy any last year, or are they buying any
They're
this year?
supposed to spend $5,000 again.
Isn't it 500?
I thought it was 5,000.
No, I'm pretty sure it's 5,000.
Okay, but we've never really collected that.
We can talk about that in our library meeting that we
Okay.
have to have.
Money?
Did we ever find out about the electronic sign?
Yes.
Where is it?
The electronic sign is in storage with the construction company. When the school is finished, the sign will be going back on the school at the end of the school.
Thank you.
So, I just have a quick question. Top Works capital special projects. The province is giving away money for housing, affordable housing. Is that possible that we could possibly look into that, but probably not, eh? Just to get rid of that up there,
Get rid of,
the land up there? so
Oh,
it's
to
not
see the-
selling?
see the lots moved. In most grants that happen with the province, your worship, the municipality has to be well underway in terms of the project. So like we saw with the fire hall application this year, it very seldom do grant applications go through when a municipality comes along and says, well, the grant's out there.
We have land.
We have land, but we have no development plan. So really, we would need to undertake a comprehensive development plan and have something to present to the grant agency that would be gift wrapped, shovel ready. Here, you guys approve us on funding for this.
Well, it's best that we start the development plan, because when you do sell the land, we need to know how they're gonna develop it, that they're not putting a trailer here and a house here and a...
That's partially up to council through the sales process, but really to develop low-cost residential housing, generally speaking, isn't a municipal function. It's usually a developer function.
But the government is doing it. Like the government, I've seen it on that, thing, yeah, once a month. Or once a week, or once a day, every day. What's that, Bert? Go ahead.
I don't think we have the staff time and that to look into something at this time. I think we've got a
No,
lot of
it's just a talk.
housekeeping to do.
It's just a talking part. It's a future thing.
So is that something we can look into for like the 2022 budgeting?
Yeah.
Is potentially looking at adding that into that discussion?
Possibly. I mean, budget brings up, it's a round table discussion about anything and everything that council might think is appropriate, council. So, those budget discussions are very collaborative, just throw out ideas and see where we go with it. Competing factors, of course, in something like this is this a municipal function? Or is a housing
This one
development
says-
best
this
left
says
to a developer?
Canada and FCM announces support for energy-efficient, affordable housing.
Okay.
Investing in the community is vital to achieve Canadians' goals, creating jobs, meeting our environmental objectives, and building an affordable and livable communities for residents.
So who are they marketing the grant to, your worship? Is it the municipalities or the developers and the construction contractors?
Municipalities.
I don't understand.
Did you not get this yesterday? Municipality climate resilient grant, and then do you have your? No, that's not it. Did you not get this, Chris?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look.
It was today's.
It's not something I've.
It was here at 12:05.
Was it? Yeah. Okay. So if I did get it, I haven't seen it yet.
I don't know. I just think that that's a good way to get rid of that property if they're willing to give up money.
But even working on the assumption that it's something the province is willing to fund to us, we would in effect becoming construction contractors. We'd be building a housing development, start to finish.
Well, can't they would have a developer.
Well, we'd have to work with some kind of engineering company, developer, you
Yeah.
know, contract that out, RFP it all out. That's a monumental undertaking to build a subdivision. And like I say, my experience is unless there's something, you know, I'm unaware of, and I have seen projects in some of the urban sectors such as Vancouver for social housing and that type of thing where they'll build units. I'm not aware of a municipality that's built a subdivision and then sort of sold it off. Generally,
Prince George did for seniors.
for seniors, yeah.
Prince George did that.
Okay. So again, yeah, something we could look at, but without a plan in place. And, you know, so to Councilor Will's point, yeah, probably if it's something you guys want to explore further, that becomes a
Well, it'll
budget
make who's
discussion.
bigger, bring in bigger tax base, right?
Yeah.
So-
But I know, you know, and I know we've had this chat before too, the grants don't fund wish list projects. They generally only fund things that the municipality's fully committed to and ready to go on. So, you know, even if we were to submit an application to that grant, we don't have anything at this time. We've got no plans. We've got no, you know, there's nothing that we can really even submit to them. We'd have to go all the way down that rabbit hole in terms of having engineers and architects and everybody design, here's the subdivision we want to build. So,
In camera, as per section 91K, or GK of the community charter, recommendation that council move into in camera as per section 91G and K of the charter, litigation of potential litigation affecting the municipality, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provisions of the municipality's services that are at the preliminary stages, and that in view of council could reasonably be expected to harm of interest of the municipality if they were held in public. Okay, 5-minute break.
What an excellent